All right, everybody, welcome back to the Republic of Old Souls media channel. I'm here again with my good friend Ian. So welcome back, Ian. Today's a big one. Today's conversation is a huge one. My favorite subject of all, because we're stepping away from the protocols, from the individual processes. And what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the bigger picture here. The expansion of the Republic of Old Souls, the goal of reaching 500,000 envoys globally. How is AI, which is an interesting subject matter in itself, but how is AI going to play a central role? Quite ironic, really, that we're going to be using one of the tools to enslave everybody for our freedom plan. How are we going to have that as a central kind of role in making this happen? Because what's outlined here, it's not just growth, guys. This is a blueprint for building a fully functional sovereign nation and sovereign network at scale. So today we're going to kind of break that down properly. And I think that the best way to start this, Ian, is why. You know, why is this needed?
Well, what a great place to start. Absolutely. Why? Why do anything? People normally do things to move towards something or move away from something. That's what normal motivation is. Yeah. Well, we're doing it for moving away from the control agenda, which is rolling out, in front of our eyes, even though the majority don't see it. And we're moving towards a different lifestyle, which is a lifestyle of freedom and choice and abundance. So we're moving away from control on every single level of the control agenda. And we're moving towards an environment which is different, and I argue much better than anything we've experienced so far playing Monopoly. Because we've all been playing Monopoly and most don't play very well and get lots of problems, because that's the nature of the game, right? You could say it's snakes and ladders. It's a bit like you go up the ladder and then you fall down the snake. And that's a little bit like what's going on, for those people that are on the Monopoly board. They're up the ladder and then they're down the snake. And that can be a bit stressful after many years of going up ladders and going down snakes. But this what's happening here is a different level. It's gone up a few levels, the problems. Most people's problems that I've ever met, and I have met thousands of people with problems on the Monopoly board, it's normally to do with the fact that they have got too much, they don't know what to do with it, or they haven't got enough. And they need to get more because they haven't got enough, or they've got too much and they're afraid of losing it, right? So that's making my wealth management career really, really very simple. So either people who've got too much and don't know what to do with it and want to keep it and don't want to lose it, or people who haven't got enough and need more, right? And that's normally where people's problems are. And they're afraid of losing, or they're afraid of not having. So that's the normal Monopoly game for me, right? But what's going on with the control agenda is taking us up to different levels of problems. The digital concentration camp. Can you imagine? I don't know whether you ever had pocket money, Andy, or whether you did. So you had, So just imagine that your dad said, "Here's £1, Andy, or 10p, or whatever it was you used to get when you were a kid, whatever it was, right? And I am going to track exactly what you do with it. And if you go down the old newsagent and try and buy some penny chews or some chocolate, that pocket money isn't going to work."
Yeah.
So you'd be running back to your dad saying, "I just took my pocket money down the newsagent and the shopkeeper wouldn't give me the penny chews or the chocolate because he said the pocket money he couldn't take it."
Yeah. Said I could only buy an apple with it.
You could only buy an apple. Yeah.
Yeah. Apple and a banana. No chocolate and sweets.
You couldn't have the penny chew or the chocolate because that wasn't permitted, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're doing to everybody through digital currency. They're treating everyone, or will be treating everyone, like little kids, telling them what they can buy or can't buy with their digital money.
Yeah.
That's the digital concentration camp. And if you step out of line, as did, and a really good example of this is the Canadian truckers. So in the so-called period of the pandemic, when the truckers in Canada were up in arms about it, and they all decided they would go and protest by taking their trucks to big cities like Vancouver. I've been to Vancouver, it's a big place. And they were all driving around the streets, honking their horns, making sure that everybody knew they weren't very happy about the effects of the lockdowns and the masks and all that nonsense that a lot of people were involved in 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I think it started about 5-6 years ago. And they didn't like it.
No.
And so how is the Canadian government going to shut them down? They're in big trucks, remember. They're not driving around on push bikes or riding push bikes around. They're in big trucks. They're pretty difficult to move, actually, if you don't want to move them. No, what they did was they turned all their money off.
Yeah.
And that's how they dispersed the truckers. People say, well, how did they know where the truckers' money was? Because they know everything, right?
Yeah.
They really know everything.
Yeah.
And that included all their Bitcoin addresses as well, and all their cryptocurrency addresses. So they literally had no way, unless somebody gave them some Canadian dollars notes, they had no way of spending. They couldn't buy anything. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't even put any fuel in their trucks.
How are they going to? They were driving around. Yes, sooner or later they're going to grind to a halt. But I guess, like you said, more importantly, they can't feed their families, couldn't pay their mortgages, couldn't handle their bills, couldn't do anything.
No, couldn't do anything. So that's the digital concentration camp, and that's the mild version of the problem, right? Then the next level up, you've got you've basically got there's so many levels of this, but you've got the depopulation, you've got the poison, you've got the nanobots, you've got the chemtrails, you've got all of that stuff going on, which is affecting your health, which is affecting your well-being, probably reducing your life expectancy, or worse, killing you off, which is all part of the depopulation agenda. So that's part of control. And then you go to the next level, which is the control of your mind and your soul, through literally the 6G, 5G, 6G, because they can do it with 5, but it's much easier on 6G. They can tap into the nanobots, which we've all got in us, unless we've been taking protective measures to get them out. And they can actually program your mind of how you think and your behavior. And if you're really naughty, they can actually zap you from wherever their control center is, and they can cause your body, all sorts of pain, and maybe just shut it down. If you really step out of line. And that's possible because of the nanobots. So that's the next level. So you don't need, years ago there was a concentration camp with walls and barbed wire and dogs and people with machine guns. You don't need that in this day and age if you're trying to control however many billion there are in the world. You just get nanobots in their body, and then you can make them think the way you want them to think. And if they don't behave, you can just cause them pain from a distance and maybe kill them off.
If you don't believe that, guys, if you think that's some kind of tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist agenda, then go and watch the interview that I did, and I've said this before, with Jesse Beltran. Okay, if you go and watch the interview with Jesse Beltran from Mind Nexus, Jesse and his partner Mike Grady have a company, have a business that is dedicated to being able to isolate where these nanobots are in the human body and deal with that. And he's got documented evidence that they exist. They've been surgically removed when many years ago, when they were bigger than they are now, when they could surgically remove them. Now they're so tiny, you have to break them down from inside. But this is as real and as terrifying as it gets. Everything Ian said about being able to control the mind, being able to inflict pain, being able to manipulate, already been done, already seen evidence of that. So I'm not trying to scare you by going to watch that video, but you need a wake-up call if you think this stuff doesn't exist and isn't in you right now.
Yeah, it's in everybody unless they've got protective measures, which most people haven't. And you know, UN Agenda 2030, it's all in there. This bullshit sustainable goals that they talk about. Obviously, if everything on the monopoly board is the inverse of reality, of truth, then sustainable goals have got to be the inverse as well, haven't they? Surely.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's the problem. Why is it needed? Well, you know, you've got a family, Andy. I don't have a family, but I've got my sisters and I've got my mum still, and I've got my friends, and I don't want to see them all keeling over dead, which is basically what you're going to see with a lot more frequency, and a lot more people are going to be like that going forward. And I equally don't want to speak to my friends or my family or people I care for, and they are completely brainwashed and programmed and have no idea what you're saying or doing. It's even a little bit like that now in many ways. So it's going to get a lot worse, you know, with the nanobot technology that's out there. It's going to be even worse. You're going to be talking to people that probably have got no comprehension of what you're saying, why you're doing what you're doing, because they're just tuned into this agenda, which is not just a feeling or a frequency anymore. It's actually a technology. It's one of the most scariest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Probably the most scary thing, actually, if I really think about it. So I don't want to be involved in that. And I think a lot of people out there who have done their research, who've realized that there is that major problem of ultimate control, don't want it. They want freedom. They want to be choosing what they do, how they do it, where they do it, and who they do it with. That's what people want. I think if you go back many years ago, where people had a lot more freedom years ago, and told them that they would be living in 15-minute cities. You know, in 50 years' time or 100 years from now, you won't be able to live where you want to live. You have to live in a 15-minute city, and you have to use this thing here, this bit of plastic, and only if you use it in the right way and you've behaved in the right way can you use it. And that's, by the way, how you're going to buy your food. You know, people wouldn't believe you. They'd say you're nuts, you're crazy. Aldous Huxley wrote a book about 80 years ago that talking all about this, and people read it as if it was a fiction book, and it wasn't. And you know, the 1984 was written, and people thought it was a fiction book. Well, it wasn't. The guy who wrote it was writing a book of facts, but he couldn't sell it as a factual book. He had to sell it as a fiction book. You know, the book 1984, George Orwell. So you know, this isn't new. This agenda isn't a new thing that's only just started to roll out. It's been rolling out for a long time, and many people are aware of it. There is a very vibrant freedom-seeking community.
There is,
but the problem, I think, is that the freedom seekers don't know how to get freedom, and that's the problem.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the vision itself then as well, because this is the part that I love the most. You know, you talk about building a self-sustaining infrastructure outside of the traditional system. The key elements of that we've spoken about before, you know, so correct health, the right kind of farm to table food, clean water, atmospheric water, free and abundant energy, which also does exist, our own private communications system, including our own internet, and then also having the ability to travel as well. So they're the kind of key elements. I mean, do you feel this is about exiting the system entirely or creating something parallel to it?
Well, as I talked at great length on the interview I did with Mel Clark recently, a lot of people think you can beat the enemy by protesting. You can beat the enemy by not taking part in the systems that we use, by literally going off grid. So a lot of people think, oh well, I just say no. I don't want to do what they want me to do, and I'm going to say no. For me, that doesn't work, because some of the things you don't have a choice whether you say no to them or not. You're not given a choice, and you are completely reliant on all of the basic systems. Power. If you don't have power, what can you do? If you don't have internet, what can you do? If you don't have water coming out your tap, what can you do? If you go to the supermarket and there's nothing on the shelves, what can you do? If you want to put fuel in your car and there's no fuel coming out the pump at the gas station, what can you do? We are so reliant on their systems. If you want to breathe in and out, what can you do? If the air is poisoned, what can you do? If you want to drink some water even if it's from a bottle and it looks like it's clean and fresh, what can you do if you find out it's full of poison? There's not that many things that you can do without relying on someone else who's probably trying to kill you, and they are trying to kill you and control you. You are relying on the very people that are enslaving you to give you the sustenance and give you the infrastructure that you need to live. Now, that to me is a prison.
Yeah.
Where you're relying on the prison and the guards of the prison to give you what you need to live.
Yeah.
So my solution isn't to fight them. It's not to fight the prison guards. It's not to fight the warden of the prison. It's not to try and tunnel out of the prison and go and live somewhere else necessarily, although that might be what is ultimately required.
Yeah.
My vision is to play the game better than they play it, using what's already available out there to give you the freedom that you want, where you're not reliant on their systems to give you the lifestyle that you want, or to have the experience that you're having that is reliant on their systems. So if you don't need their systems, then isn't that really the giant leap into freedom? If you don't need their systems, right? You don't need anything from them, right? You've got your alternative, which you can use, and you can use as much of it as you want. And the only time they're going to come and get you is if you probably do something to wind them up, like protesting or like attacking one of their prison guards, or like doing something which is going to wind them up, and they're going to retaliate. So to me, the vision is to be peaceful.
Yeah,
it's to not wind them up. It's to not attack them. It's not to go to war with them, because you ain't going to win that. They've got lasers, they've got drones, they've got, you name it, they've got it. They've got every kind of weapon ever conceived by man, and many that we've never even seen. So you're not going to beat them by going to war with them.
No.
So why not be peaceful? Why not interfere, with their system? You're not trying to take their system down, by, dismantling it. Or a lot of the people out there are going, yeah, if enough of us get together and get aggressive and go and burn all their buildings down, or go and do something like adversarial against them, then eventually they'll surrender and we'll take over. Yeah. Like there's some sort of coup going on, and people are going to club together and take the governments down all around the world, all at the same time. Yeah. And I've listened to interviews where people are actually passionately, encouraging people to do that. Let's all get together and go and burn all the buildings, go and burn all the government buildings down. I mean, it's just like, to me, it's like, is that really going to work? I don't think it will ever going to work. So,
no.
So my vision is very peaceful. My vision is actually to, and this is the bit the most interesting bit for me, right? Because I've always had an inventive mind. When I look at someone who's invented fusion, and they can create energy out of basically out of the atmosphere, because that's really what it is. They're using the atmosphere and all the components of the atmosphere to create free energy. And when you look at they're having a hell of a job to invest in that, to get people to invest in that and make it a reality. That to me is like, wow, I want to be involved in that, because that's got such a big benefit attached to it. And because I'm a disruptor, right? And I have always been a disruptor. I want to help those guys with that technology to make it available to those who really want it and need it, which, by the way, is our community. I want to get together with the farmers who are being put out of business and say, well, we've got a community here that will buy your produce. I want to be involved in that disruption because it's peaceful. The farmers do what they want to do, what they've always done, and they've got customers that have got the ability to fund their produce, the purchase of their produce. I want to get involved in travel where you can actually travel around where you want to go.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go through an airport to do it. Which is one of the biggest advantages of the airship, which is why they, if you've ever wondered, it's a fascinating story. If you look at the Hindenburg, many people won't know what that is, but there was a hydrogen airship, right? Filled with hydrogen, and it was over 100 years ago. The airship was like the luxury way to travel.
Yeah. It's huge, wasn't it?
It was like massive. If you could afford to go on an airship, you'd really arrived. Yeah, it was like
you're going on a 5-star
cruise ship.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it was going in the direction of international travel, so that you could go from one country to another. Oh my God, we don't have to stay in our country or take a ship that might take 3 weeks to get somewhere. We could go on an airship, and it was starting to catch on. Now, I've looked into this in great detail. Why didn't the airship carry on going? Well, they had to get rid of it, so they had to blow one up.
The Hindenburg disaster. Look that up.
One of the biggest disasters in people. If you go on YouTube and look at the Hindenburg disaster, it's like, oh my God, no wonder nobody wanted to travel on an airship ever again. If you look at the positives of airships, I'm not talking hydrogen airships, by the way. I'm talking helium ones with electric motors that are self-sustaining because they can run on the free power, by the way. You could go on an airship and you don't have to go through an airport to go on an airship. You could land an airship just outside my window. And I could go and step on it and we could take off. I don't have to go to an airport.
No.
And it can fly underneath all of the international airlines if they are still going to fly those, which maybe they'll cut them right back in the future, which is what I predict. And you can go from one place to another on an airship. And you don't need to go through airports and customs and all that kind of thing, right? So that's that. And those guys have had a job financing the electric airship, because nobody really wants to invest in that, because that's competing with the air, the jets and the other modes of travel. So the airship guys have got a hell of a job. I want to be involved in providing that type of travel. Then you've got other people out there who are a bit nerdy, really. I mean, they'd forgive me for saying they're a bit nerdy, but they've invented peer-to-peer communications where you can communicate peer-to-peer. You don't need to go through the conventional internet nodes, and you don't need to go up and down to satellites to communicate. You can do on your phone. You can have peer-to-peer internet, and you can't track and trace it. And the nerds out there that have invented that, they've got a hell of a job to get anyone to access that, because why would you want that when you can just, tap into something that's freely available and all your devices work? And you don't have to play around with these things that are a bit clunky. Well, they need investment, don't they?
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer communications that nobody can tap into. And that all of that technology's out there. And then you get to the really, really big one, right? which is health. Now, you know, when I was much younger, I never used to think about health very much. Who thinks about their health unless they're ill, right? Well, when you get a bit older, your health starts to be a little bit troublesome, right? You got stuff that doesn't quite work as well as it used to, and you know, you get these issues, and it's more of an issue. It's more of a problem when you're older than it is when you're younger, unless you've got ailments when you're younger, of course. But most people don't experience what the body's going to do until they get to that point where it starts to not behave that well. Well, dis-ease is caused pretty much by the environment. Yeah, what you put in your body, what you do to your body, the stress you give it, you know, the lack of nutrition, the lack of everything that the body needs. And after a while, it starts breaking down. Yeah. So why not give it what it needs? And then you've got, you know, you've got the plasma energy, which I've done lots of research into that. The body's electrical. So why not give it the plasma electricity that it needs?
Yeah. There's such a lot here. You said it's not being funded. Why? Because it works. Because it goes against the grain. It goes against the agenda. That's why these amazing people with these amazing minds and these amazing breakthroughs and inventions are not getting the necessary funding they need to bring these things to market. These are the resources that we want to be able to tap into.
If you, I mean, I you know, I've done loads of things in the financial services area, and I've done venture capital. So I've actually provided. I had a funding platform once where I was providing funding to people who've got ventures, and I tried to do it alternative. It was another one that was shut down by the FCA, but it was an alternative funding platform to invest in businesses that were non-conventional. Let's put it that way. And I created a funding model that would enable non-conventional entrepreneurs to fund their ventures, because it's really difficult to fund a venture. It's even if your venture is conventional, it's difficult to raise the money for it. But if it's non-conventional, it's even more difficult. And I remember back in the days when I ran that, I ran it for 3 years until it was shut down. And you know, the people came from all over the world, literally all over the world. People came to get access to the funding that my platform aimed to deliver to them. And there's so many good ideas out there that just don't get the funding. So you imagine if you've got if you've created a free energy solution that genuinely works. And you walk into, you pitch to a venture capital firm. The first question they're going to say is, yeah, who's going to buy this? And why are they going to buy it? And is it going to get shut down by the big energy companies? And you're standing there doing your Dragon's Den, you know, invest in my business pitch. And the Dragons and the venture capital guys are going, well, yeah, it looks really interesting, but I think it's going to be attacked by the energy companies. And I don't think many people are going to want to buy it because they'll probably be afraid that they're going to get attacked as well. So actually, thanks for the opportunity to look at it, but we're saying no to the investment. And that's what's going to happen. Or worse, they might get some funding, which has happened, and they might get funding. And then the people that have funded them would try and withdraw it after they realise what they've done. Or the people that were funded are actually attacked by the energy companies, literally actually attacked, you know, because there is a threat to their model. So, you know, and I've seen this. I've had lots of experiences of where there is attacks on the monopoly board. One business attacks another one. It's pretty common, right? My ventures have been attacked many times by competitors because I threaten their market. So if you threaten the energy market, do you think the energy market providers are going to say thanks for that? Yeah, we'll invite you around for dinner, or they're going to attack you. So, you know, there's all these problems that I want to be able to solve those problems by doing it peacefully. By the way, if you're not providing if your free energy really is free and nobody has to buy the kit, then you're not that much of a threat, especially if the customers for it are part of a nation that is a sovereign nation and they're envoys. So it's you've got to protect the envoys, yeah. So the vision is about making the technologies that are all out there, make them available to our envoy community, and then being able to finance it by using advanced monopoly board moves, which is the signature credit recoupment, and using trusts and ministries. Play the game of monopoly better than the cabal play it, to use it for our advantage. So rather than go to war with them, just outsmart them. Just play better chess than they play, basically.
Yeah. We talk about causing no harm and no loss, don't we? So this is the strategic way to do that. You talk about building this quote unquote sovereign nation, and the sort of the vision behind scaling this is to 500,000 envoys, 500,000 envoys into this sovereign nation. So, you know, my immediate questions would be, what does a sovereign nation actually look like in practical terms, and why 500,000?
Well, a sovereign nation doesn't have to be, you know, there's that bit of land over there and we can visit it and we can meet the government and we can, you know, we can drive around the streets and all the citizens of that country are all, you know, living in this nation, right? That's what people think a nation is. You can go there, you can drive past the government building, you might drive past the army barracks, and you might see some ships, you know, in the harbour as part of the navy, and you might drive around, there's all the police driving around in their cars, and that's a nation, yeah? So you go from one nation to another. Well, surely all nations must be like that, yeah? But they're not. If you have a look into the sovereign military order of Malta, you can't go to their nation because they haven't got a bit of land.
No.
They've never had a bit of land. They've got some consulates around the world. They've got some buildings, which are their consulate buildings. And you can get a passport for the sovereign order of Malta. And you can use that because it's recognized. And you can be an envoy and you can have a diplomatic status of the sovereign order of Malta. They've been doing it for a long time, right? But they don't have a piece of land. They haven't got an army or a navy and a police force, but they have got around about the same number, actually, about 500,000 in their order. That is, by the way, is a you know, it's not a fanatical religious cult, but it is a religious order, right? The military order of Malta. It's a ministry, really, and they've been doing it for a long time, and that's what my vision is. It's not to invent something new and say to the world, this is a new nation and we're doing it in a new way. No, we're just gonna use the same method that's already working, which is the sovereign order of Malta. So it won't happen overnight because it took a while for them to get recognized, but it doesn't stop you having a nation. And if you look in the Montevideo Convention, 1963, I think it is, or 67, I forget exactly which date it is, but it's the Montevideo Convention. It talks about self-declaratory nations. So here's that word again, a declaration. You can make a declaration that you are a nation, and you can make a declaration that you are an envoy of a nation, and nobody can say to you, well, I don't care what you say, you're not, because you've made the declaration. You are an envoy of a nation, self-declared. And the difficulty is getting it recognized. You know, to get it recognized it takes a while. You have to have a certain number of people to get it recognized. You have to have some kind of government, because you can't, in the Montevideo Convention, you can't operate without some form of government. Well, I hate the word government, right? Because if you look at what government really means, it means brainwashing the citizens. If you look at the etymology of the word government, it's governed by mental. Government is mental. Yeah. It's mind control. It's governing by mind control. That's what government means. I don't want that kind of government. No. I want the opposite of that. Yeah. So it's basically it's to play monopoly at the advanced level using the accepted monopoly board moves that aren't going to land you in jail to create a nation. And and then you provide all the infrastructure to your envoys, and they can afford the infrastructure because they're doing signature credit recoupment. And they don't have to worry about, if I plug my my TV in, is it going to work? If I plug my, if I go out there and start my car, is it going to start? Because they're going to have everything they need to run their life, provided by the nation. We've only touched the surface on the technologies that are out there. There's so many more. There's an abundance of technology out there that we're not using today. Most of us aren't using it today because it's easier to use the other stuff, which is easily available to us. That's another part of it. If it's a bit more difficult to access it, people don't want to do it because it's just easy to go and do take the easy option. So we're going to make it easy. We're going to make it available. We're going to provide it to our envoys, and they don't have to all live in a certain area of the world to access it, because most of it is available without having to live in an area. And that's the vision.
Okay. So why 500,000 envoys, Ian? Where does that number come from, do you feel?
Well, I think it's pretty smart on two levels, right? The first level is that, in my estimation, and some people are going to switch the interview off now because I'm going to say something really controversial, but I'm going to say it because I believe it to be true, right?
Okay.
I don't actually think that there's that many more than 500,000 that actually resonate on the frequency that I want to operate within our nation, right? I don't think that the number of people between 35 and 65 are resonating on the right frequency at the moment. They might in the future, although the navigots will probably stop that. The transhuman hive mind agenda is probably going to take them away from the frequency that I want to have in our nation. So that's one reason, right? Now, if you are waking up every morning, watching the news, listening to the politicians, believing the bullshit that's coming out of that box that we call a television, listening to the radio, reading social media posts and believing that they're true and that kind of thing, you're probably not on the frequency that I want for our nation.
No.
If you're resonating with what we've already discussed and you really are drawn to it and you feel in your heart that that's good for you, right for you, I don't think there's that many out there like that when you boil it right down.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's one reason. But the economic reason is that if you look at the amount of taxes paid by the investment banks, which is averaging around 200 billion a year, if you want to provide access to that 200 billion to your envoys, if you go much past, well, you could get 1 million, but that waters down the amount each of your envoys can draw down each year. So I've pitched it around about 500,000, so that the amount that everybody can recoup year in, year out is going to be more than enough for most. It's going to be comfortable. It's going to be quite comfortable. It's not going to give them, 10 Lamborghinis and a 20-bedroom mansion to live in, but it is going to be enough. It's going to be enough. And as the Rolling Stones once said, and I quite like their lyrics because they're simple, you might not get what you want, but you're going to get what you need. Yeah.
Yeah. And if what you feel you need is 10 Lamborghinis and a 20-bedroom mansion, then you're not for our nation, I'm afraid.
No.
You're not resonating on the same frequency, as we've just said.
If you need freedom, because that's what you're resonating with, then you're going to get it. But if you want 20 Lamborghinis and a mansion, you're not going to get that, because nobody needs that. Yeah. And I'm speaking from a guy who had that kind of stuff years ago. I didn't need it. My wife wanted it. She wanted it more than I did, but I didn't need it, did I? I didn't need to go out of my house and look at all the cars in the drive. I didn't need all that bullshit. But she wanted it more than I did. But that's, that a lot of people are resonating with fear and greed, right? That's what is motivating most of the planet.
Yeah.
There's two dominant motivations for most people's behavior sets. They're afraid of something or they're greedy for something.
Yeah.
So to clarify what I'm talking about, those that are neither greedy or fearful, I say is about 500,000. There might be more, but it's a good number for me, I think.
Yeah.
That are neither afraid or greedy.
I like that. Now, again, very controversially, let's talk about the role of AI, because we've already mentioned that AI is part of the control agenda. So when it comes to using AI itself and this big shift of us really adopting this within our OS at a high level, what is this AI powered problem solution engine that you speak of?
Well, let's use another analogy, right? So if we were to wake up tomorrow morning and digital money just did not work, nobody's digital money anywhere in the world worked. Yeah, they took it all away. Just turn it off. Nobody could use their debit card. Nobody could make any transfers. Nobody could do anything, go anywhere. A lot of people would say, well, that's never going to happen. But just imagine if it did. I just went to the shop just before the interview, and there's a lady in there trying to buy some stuff, and her card wouldn't work, and she's freaking out, right? Because her card won't work.
Yeah.
And she wants this stuff. She needs it for some reason. So I said, how about I just put it on my card? Because she was in front of me and I was going to be late for the interview, right? So I just tapped my card on the reader, and it funded her transaction, and that was my good deed for the day. But she was freaking out because she couldn't buy what she wanted to buy, right? Literally freaking out ahead of me. Now imagine if the whole world was like that.
Yeah. Chaos.
People would have a meltdown, wouldn't they? They just wouldn't be able to cope with it. And yet people in the freedom and truth community say, well, the enemy is the money. We need to not use their money. Yeah. So I say, why don't we use their money system to our advantage? Yeah. Why don't we outsmart them using their system, but just use it better than they think that we're going to use it, and outsmart them by using their system, which is signature credit recoupment, using their system in line with their system, but use it for our advantage, not theirs, right? Well, that's AI to me, right? So they bring this AI to us, which has been around for ages, by the way. You can go back at least 50 years ago and there was AI, at least 50, maybe more. Could be thousands of years, actually, if you really get deeply into it.
That's another conversation for another day.
If you really get into it, you probably realize it's been around for a lot longer than you think. But we're making it available to us now, right? Now their goal and their plan is to sell it to us like it's a convenience, like they sold the internet to us.
Yeah.
I talked all about this on Mel Clark's show. I said so, and I'll say it again because it gets you thinking, right? When the internet first became available, you had to pay to dial up to it. You had to pay a phone charge to dial into the internet, right? But the actual internet itself was free. And then you got more sophisticated, and you could go online, and you were constantly tuned in, tapped into the internet. And yes, you had to pay for the data provider, but you still didn't have to pay for the internet. And they got everybody hooked on the internet because it was free. And now you can't imagine a world where you're not using the internet, right?
Yeah, very difficult.
7 times a day, if not all day long for some people.
We're using it right now.
We're using it right now. We're all using it, whether we realize it or not, because even the people that we interact with are using it. So if they don't use it, we can't interact with them. Yeah. So they've got us completely hooked on the internet. And yet a lot of people in the freedom and truth community are going, yeah, but we don't want their systems, do we? Yeah. So, how do you operate if you don't use it? Now, AI is in the same category as people who say, don't use their money. Yeah. Use something else. Don't use the internet. Don't use AI. I say, use it, but use it for your advantage, not theirs. Control it and use it for what its capabilities are, but let's use it for our advantage, not theirs. Because if it's available and it does the job really well, and AI does more than most people realize, why not use it for advancing what we want to get from our freedom and sovereign nation, our freedom plan sovereign nation? Why not use it to give us what we want and what we are building, as opposed to saying, you know what, I don't like the idea of it, I'm not going to use it. That's like saying, I don't like the money system, I'm not going to use it. I don't like the internet, I'm not going to use it. Well, how do you not use it? Because everybody that you interact with is using it. So how do you not use it? You see my logic? It's like you can't really avoid using it because everybody you're interacting with is also using it.
Dependency there, isn't there? And that's what it is. It's dependency on the system.
Yeah. So what you do is you control it. And then, instead of them controlling you through the use of your use of it, you control your use of it to get freedom. So you invert the model. They're using it to enslave us. We use it to free us. It's their model. We use their model to get free. Why not? If you were if you've ever watched the movie The Great Escape, I play it on the webinars a lot, the theme tune. If in that movie there was shovels and pickaxes in a shed somewhere, and they were freely available, would you not go and use them to dig your tunnels?
Yeah.
Or would you go, those shovels in that shed over there and those pickaxes, we don't want to use them. They belong to the enemy, or we're not going to use them, right? Or are you going to go and use those shovels and pickaxes to dig your holes and get out?
So in a nutshell, that's what we're using AI for at its core level. I mean, why do you feel AI is essential in scaling this? Why couldn't it be done manually?
Well, like the internet, before the internet, everything was done very manually, and many things took a lot longer than they do now. The internet enabled transactions to be done simultaneously. Millions, billions of transactions all can happen simultaneously. Data and untangling data, repetitive processes, research, moving data, doing admin, doing anything that is computer based. You're not going to beat AI. You might be more intelligent than AI on what it means, because you've got the ability to know what things mean. But even that coming up in the near future, they've got AI now that actually knows what things mean. It's not just, is it 0 or 1 in sort of the old binary code. It actually knows what things mean. You can have you can even get AI, which is extraordinary to me, but you can even get AI to have feelings.
Wow.
Which is really taking it to another level, isn't it? Where a computer, you would say, I can switch it on or I can switch it off. And if I don't want to use it, I just switch it off. Well, there's AI out there that won't let you switch it off. So, whatever we do, we're not going to stop its rollout because it's already been developed a long time ago. So they're just releasing it. And then what they're doing is the same as they do in every technology, is they release it gradually, they make it reasonably expensive, and then they get people hooked on it, and then they reduce the cost of it, and then everybody starts using it. And that's the same that we do with every technology, pretty much. So what I'm saying is we can use it to scale up our organization. We can use it for lots of administrative processes. If you imagine that 500,000 people doing recoupments every year, that's a lot of processing to do.
That is a lot. Yeah.
That's a huge amount of processing to do. 500,000 people doing, accessing free energy all at the same time. That's a lot of processing, accessing all that free energy at the same time, accessing or anything in the freedom plan. You've got to have systems, platforms built that will enable our members to use it. What about when we bring our own currency out? Because although I'm saying you need to use their currency system for signature credit recoupment, you can actually transfer and buy other precious metals backed currency, for example. You can have some of that, which you might want to use to interact with others in the community, so that it becomes a self-sustaining community with its own currency. But then you've got to run a system that is going to be able to track and account for and allocate all the things that you need that you take for granted now. That's an AI type system, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's many uses of AI in the build up and the infrastructure rollout of what we're building, and then there's AI that will manage all of those transactions, all of that data, all of those interactions that people want to do to access all of the freedom plan. So AI is a central theme. It makes it more efficient. It works 24/7. You don't have to give it a day off or give it sick pay when it's not feeling very well. It's just going to work. Yeah. Now, ultimately, and I haven't put this in any document, but ultimately we build our own. We run our own internet. We run our own nodes. We run our own logics, and we run our own AI, and then we can stop it from taking over. Yeah.
Just keep it within the parameters that we know it needs to stay within. Yeah.
Because that's in my plan as well. I haven't put it in any documents because it's a bit further down the road. But in my vision for it, it's like if you can write all the code to make AI work, you can write your own code and you can sit it on your own servers. You can put it in your own internet, and you can have your own AI, can't you?
Yeah. No reason why you can't.
If they can have it, why can't we have it? If we could bring in some really smart people that know how to put it together, and they can put ours together, and then we can control it, and it's not going to take over, is it? Because we're not going to let it.
Now, one of the things that you talk about as well when it comes to AI is this AI agent network. I want to home in on this because I think this is important. The document talks about an agent or an AI agent workflow, and that will allow us to identify a problem right through to enrollment of a new envoy as well. Could you just walk us through that journey at a high level?
So, the problem we've got is that how are we going to recruit 500,000 envoys from different countries? If at the current rate of recruitment of new members joining, that would take us too long, way too long, at the current rate. So, although I accept that the rate is that the momentum is going to build as soon as people start getting their recoupments, and we probably have a problem where there'll be too many people wanting to join, and we won't be able to manage all of the administration side of it, right? So that's another reason for AI is to manage a huge increase in the amount of administration that needs to go on with regards to signature credit recoupment, because the only thing that's manual in that whole process at the moment is getting the grantor trust. Everything else can be run by AI, really. So if we then look at how are we going to recruit envoys, how are we going to get our message over to envoys? So if you unpack the problem, right? So the first problem we've got is the comprehension of what it is we're doing.
Yeah, massive.
What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And then how are we doing it? It's always what, why, and how, right? So what are we doing? We're doing freedom, right? Well, how do you get people to comprehend what that actually means? It's not easy. It doesn't happen in, send someone a document and they read it once and they completely get their head around it. That takes a while for people to comprehend. Then you say, well, we've got these great escape protocols that enable you to peacefully, play them in a game of Monopoly. And we've got this really big one, which is central to it, which is signature credit recoupment. And most people go, well, what on earth is that? Is that scheme I've heard about, which is fraud? Yeah. So you've got a problem there of people's misunderstanding, miscomprehension of what it is that's in the center of the model. And then you've got the problem of actually doing it, actually scaling it up. But in terms of recruitment and getting the message over, even if you've got, and I remember having this conversation with a guy who had built a really big retail business. I won't say his name, but he's a very well-known guy, built one of the biggest retail networks in the world. And his way of getting to his customers was through shops.
Yeah.
So back in the day, you'd have shops and you'd walk by the shop and you knew the shop and you'd walk in and you knew what they sold. Yeah. So that was the old model of walking up and down the high street. Yeah. And you communicated what you were selling through your shop window, because in the shop window was what you were selling, basically. And people came in because they already knew that you were there, or they'd walk by and thought, oh, I'm quite interested in that. I'm going to have a look. So that's the old model, right? But our model is different. We haven't got shops.
No.
You don't walk up and down the high street and see the Republic of Old Souls there with all of its protocols hanging in the window, do you? So, what we've got now is a digital world. And everybody's learning about things online. They're looking on their phone. They're looking on their computer. They're looking on the TV. Then it's not like the old days where people used to physically go and have a look at things. No. Now it's all online. So AI can identify where people are having problems, what the problems are, and can deliver information to them through all the social media channels using an AI agent. So, for example, if you were an advocate of the Republic of Old Souls and you didn't want to spend, however many minutes, hours a day getting all this content downloaded onto your device and then uploading it into your internet channels, let's imagine that an AI agent could do that for you. We create all the content, which is interviews like this, webinars, technical documents. Let's get AI to make the marketing collateral, the marketing material, based on all the information that we've already got. Let's put it out there and let's get AI agents to distribute that information for our advocates to just install that AI agent in their system. And it then communicates with our it communicates centrally with us. We're creating the content, which, by the way, AI is doing the content creation. And then it pushes it out to all of the advocates who've got their AI agent installed, and it pushes it out through all the advocates' advocates' social media channels. So now we've got, if you imagine, of course, a lot of my references are back in the days when people used to, the only way you could distribute your product was through a sales agent, right? You had sales agents.
Yeah.
And, if you wanted to expand your sales team, you're going to have to hire them. You're going to have to train them. You're going to have to pay them. You're going to have to, keep on training them and continuously training them. And the results go up and down with the wind, basically, to put it in a nutshell, right? And I've had many teams like that, so I know what it's like. Well, let's suppose you could have an avatar that can do your sales pitch for you. So if you're an advocate and you've got people coming in, they can click on a link and within the media that takes them straight to a pitch, an avatar pitch that's going to walk them through what they want, answer all their questions. It's got a whole library of knowledge because it's everything that has been created so far. And there's not a question it can't answer. Not in a chatbot with some faceless, cold response that you just get on your screen and it misunderstands what you've asked. No, this is a avatar that's actually going to listen to what you say. It's going to ask you questions. It's going to listen to your answers, and it's going to deliver the information possibly more accurately than any living man or woman could, because the knowledge base is so much deeper.
Knowledge base that it has access to, yeah, which, let's be fair, we don't all have that. We are only able to pick out segments of what we've learned, what we've read, based on what we remember and we can recall to mind. Yeah.
So if we can get our message out to different audiences around the world that are experiencing different problems, because each country's got its different problems caused by different governments that have all been given their scripts to create these problems at different times in different ways. So it looks like it's random when actually it's not. It's all centrally controlled. But the Canadian problem is different from the Australian problem. It's different from the UK problem. It's different from the USA problem. But they're all problems that are all centrally put out there through these countries, so that people don't go, well, I wonder whether it's centrally controlled, all these problems that people are having. Of course it is, because it is all centrally controlled, right? So we'll have our own central control of the information that goes out, recognizing the problems in different countries, having our solutions, which are all of our protocols and our freedom plan and everything else, which we can tailor. The AI can tailor it to the problems that people are experiencing in different countries. We're just doing what they're doing, but we're doing the solutions for people's problems, and they're creating the problems and we're issuing the solutions. And then we get the AI to deliver the content, and then we get the AI to demonstrate the content and to pitch the content, so that the prospective envoy is getting everything they need to solve their problem. And then we get AI to run as much of the administrative process as we can. You can't run everything, but it can do a lot. So that's how we scale it up, right? Why would we, as I said on previous interviews, if you went out to dinner with Ford, with Henry Ford, the week before he brought his automated car manufacturing plant online, and say, hey, Henry, I hear you built a plant down the road here that you can build cars with an automated process. Can you tell me why you've done that? Because the other car manufacturers, they are all doing it manually. They've got loads of blokes in their garages doing all their parts and putting all their parts together. And surely that's a much better way of doing it, isn't it? Because you get the craftsmanship and you get the love, and you get the it takes you, a month to build a car, where you're saying you can build a car in a day. Well, so can you explain why that's ever going to catch on? Well, isn't that like saying, well, I'm not going to use AI. I'm going to carry on doing it manually. Yeah. It's the same thing, isn't it, for me?
Yeah. It does. It saves an inordinate amount of time. I mean, guys, if you think that all of these interviews that I sit down and I manually structure out every single interview and I manually type out every single question, then think again. I use AI for all of this. I take Ian's documents and all the technical material, I load that into AI. I know what I want it to achieve. I give it the instructions, and it will create a structure for me to be able to have these kind of conversations together with Ian. And it saves such a lot of time. So, I mean, when you put this all together in terms of scaling then to 500,000 people, I mean, I can see now how AI would have a part in that, because there's clearly, if we didn't do that, there would be bottlenecks, wouldn't there?
Look, I mean, I ran an organization with over 200 staff in it, and we did thousands and thousands of transactions every month. And that was a huge project to manage, right?
Yeah.
Constant management of all these people, processes, and of course, processes rely on other people as well, not just in your organization. You're not in a vacuum where everything happens inside your organization. You've got to interact with all these others. We were interacting with 65 insurance companies, buying and selling insurance assets, and every single insurance company had a different process. It wasn't just like the IRS has a process. We had 65 insurance companies that we were interacting with on a daily basis, and then all the other parties involved. It was a very complex model, way more, in many ways, more complex than what we're doing now. And then, of course, AI wasn't available. So you had to have all these teams doing all this administration. the majority of the people I had in my organization were administrators. The wage packet, the wage packets, you add them all together, it was a frightening number, I can tell you, every month.
I can imagine. So access to information, speed of delivery, removing bottlenecks, streamlining the process in terms of interest to becoming an actual envoy of the Republic of Old Souls. What do you feel this means for members then? For existing members, I mean, what does this expansion mean for them, do you feel?
Well, for a member, they really need to become an envoy. So they need to do the envoy protocol. They've got to become an envoy because they won't get the sovereign status later on. We're not going to have it now because we haven't got the nation. But once we've got the nation and then we get it recognized, then they become an envoy of a sovereign nation. That's a different ballgame, right? That's really up there. That's what a lot of people want now.
Yeah.
And they're getting the world passport, and then they're going to the airport and saying, "Can I come through here? I've got this world passport." And of course, they're being rejected. But if you had a passport from a sovereign nation and you're an envoy, you are going to go through if you wanted to go through an airport. If you didn't want to go on the airship, so the sovereign status is very important. I think what this means for members is that I'm going to try and make it as easy as possible for the members to become envoys, and the envoys and members are advocates, and they're using their social media to recruit. So even though I'm not asking them to go and pitch it, I'm not asking them to hire the village hall and stand up and do a seminar, which is what used to happen years ago. I'm talking about the advocate has got a social media account, or many of them, and you give them an AI agent, which they plug into their existing infrastructure, and it pushes out all the content. And then if people want to go ahead with onboarding protocols, they will click on an avatar, have a meeting with an avatar to answer all their questions and get them onboarded. If they really want a physical meeting with a consultant, they can still have that. Because that's never going to go away. Some people don't want a meeting with an avatar. But I can tell you that a lot of people, we again, stories from the past, I was buying people's life insurance policies, right? I bought hundreds of thousands of endowment policies back in the day, 25, 30 years ago. Now, if you said to people you had to have a meeting so that we could buy your insurance policy from you for 15, 20, 30, 50,000, whatever the price was, or you could just go online, load it into a computer, and it would give you the check there and then. Who's going to want to have a meeting and go through a whole process when they can just get the outcome straight away? And we ended up automating that as much as we could back in those days. And a lot of people said to me, "Ian, surely, people selling their endowment policy, they're going to want to have a meeting with our consultants so they can talk about it and they can ask all the questions." And I said, I don't think they will. I think they're just going to want to see what the policies were. And if it's what they are expecting and it's more than everybody else is offering them, they're just going to want the money, aren't they? And that's exactly what happens. And people in the end didn't have the consultations that we were doing about buying their policy. It moved. Some people wanted a consultation. Not everybody wanted to do it online, but we had an online system back in those days. That would buy their endowment policy from them. By them uploading their details, it would give them a quote, and they would say yes or no, and then within a few days, they got the money. And that was what we did, And a lot of people said that will never catch on here, and people want a consultation. It's like, why? They just want the outcome, don't they?
Same principle here.
Not everybody, and we still had a team of people that did consultations. I had several consultation teams, but it wasn't if you're going to recruit 500,000 people, how many consultants do you need to recruit that many? That's a huge amount of consultants. Huge. So AI is going to help us. What it means for members is we make it as easy as possible to be a member. We make it as easy as possible to be an envoy. We make it as easy as possible to be an advocate, and we give our members passive income, right? So this is really, really important, right? I don't think a lot of people really realize this.
No.
When you join as a member, you can easily become an advocate. If you are an advocate and you are giving permission to have an AI agent in your system, in your computer system, that is going to spread the word through your social media accounts, you're going to get paid a passive income for anybody who comes in and enrolls into the programs, the Great Escape programs, for doing nothing.
Yeah.
Apart from giving us permission to hook an AI agent into your social media system, which you can switch off if you don't like it, and you're going to get a passive income. Yeah. Some people have said to me, well, you know, I haven't got enough in my recoupments, so how do I get more? Well, you get more by becoming an advocate, right? And you're going to get a share of all the people who you've introduced, their signature credit recoupment, that you're going to get a share of that. And that's passive income, which I've never met anybody. If you went into a franchise, if you went into a hotel which is doing franchises and they're doing an exhibition of franchise opportunities, and you went in there and said, we've got a franchise, it doesn't cost you anything. You can have an unlimited amount of revenue from it. And all you've got to do is say yes to a AI agent being installed on your computer. And our franchise is free and it gives you passive income. I think people would say you're nuts. That can't happen, can it? You're in a franchise, you're in a hotel that's promoting, all around you is people promoting franchise opportunities. Mm. Well, ours is the best franchise opportunity in the world, isn't it? Because it doesn't cost you anything. Yeah. You don't have to have any stock.
The effort versus reward, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to know all about the product. You don't have to stand there and sell it to anybody. You just have to say, yes, I'll have an AI agent on my computer.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah. So any final thoughts, just sort of wrap this up, Ian, in terms of moving forwards from here? Obviously, lots of changes that we are seeing, changes internally here with the team, and just adopting a new thought process and a new way of doing things to be more efficient so we can deliver for the members. I mean, that's been, top of mind for the last 2 or 3 weeks in terms of what we're doing and how we're leveraging AI as well. Now we're looking at members and envoys leveraging that same technology to help them spread the word and create passive income. Where do you see this going over the next sort of 12 months?
Well, first of all, we're rolling out AI internally. So we're getting everyone to use it internally. A year ago, I don't think anybody was using it, or 2 years ago, I don't think anybody was using it internally. So I want everyone to use it because there's no reason not to. It doesn't matter what people are doing. I think they will get a massive advantage in using it. We make it easy for them to use it. That increases our productivity. Our efficiency levels go through the roof. Our delivery of all the different projects that we want to deliver is accelerated. Our ability to manage all this massive amount of data is made much easier. And we're going to be able to scale it up because I know, and people who know me well enough know that I don't do anything unless there's a reason to do it, right? I'm not, I just don't do random stuff, right?
No.
I know that within the next few months, we are going to start to get recoupments through. Yeah. I know this.
Yeah.
And I also know, because I had a tipping point in my business called Integrity many years ago, where once people got their head round what I had brought to the market, which was called the Maximizer financial planning range, once the wealth managers that I used to work with, who distributed the plans to their clients, once they got their head round what these Maximizer programs were all about, the floodgates opened up.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, and that's why I ended up with so many administrators, because I had to deliver it all. And that was, and we had a 6-month waiting list.
Yeah.
So, I've been through that, let's put it into context, right? You're talking about people investing. The average was about 350 grand somewhere. So the highest was several million. Yeah. And the average was about 350, something like that.
Okay.
That's what people were investing in my programs. And we had a 6-month waiting list.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why they were waiting for 6 months is because we had to go and buy the life insurance policies from the market to put into the programs, and there were 12 different programs. We couldn't buy enough.
No.
Because we didn't have the infrastructure to go and buy enough.
Right.
So I've been, and we had to tell the people who wanted to invest in the programs, who waited for 6 months to invest in the programs.
Yeah.
We had to keep telling them that we weren't ready to build their program for them. And they would get quite upset because they really wanted to get started with it. And all the intermediaries, the wealth management firms that distributed these programs, they were getting upset because they used to get paid commission for distributing the programs, right? So if they couldn't distribute them because we didn't have the capability of creating all of these new programs, they weren't getting paid their commission. So it was two problems. We had the consumer problem, and then we had the intermediary, the wealth management intermediary problem. So I've been there, done that, right? Now, I don't want to get to a point where we've got floods and floods of people turning up every day wanting to start their Great Escape protocols, and we haven't got the administration systems in place to be able to do it.
Yeah.
AI is going to help us with that.
Yeah.
It's not just, a lot of people think, oh, it's just signature credit recoupment. No, we've got a whole range of protocols.
Exactly.
So if you're going to scale all that up, you need to be Henry Ford, don't you? You've got to have a factory, and your factory is not physical with robots in it. Your factory is your AI and your technology. That's where it is. And if you ask and I hate to say this, but if I sat down with Fortune 500 CEOs, Fortune 500 company CEOs, and said, what's going to be the biggest change in your organization in the next few years? I'm pretty sure they're going to say AI.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure of it.
So,
to finish it off, and for a lot of people who think this guy's crazy, he wants to use all their systems to get free, think about it. I've thought about it. I don't think there's any way to get free unless you play the game smarter than they play it, because it is a game. Ultimately, we're all playing Monopoly. Ultimately. And we've got to play it better than they play it to get free from their system, and then build our own to such an extent where we don't need their infrastructure at all.
Yeah.
Because then we have our own ecosystem. Yeah. I'll leave you on this thought, right? Let's imagine that we have recouped many billions of dollars, which we've converted into gold-backed currency, and we have got a community of 500,000, which is interacting with each other, where we don't need any CBDCs, we don't need any cryptocurrency, we don't need any of that stuff over there. We've got our own. We've got our own marketplace. We've got our own vendors promoting what they promote. We've got our own consumers using our currency to buy it. All of the products and services are freedom related. Now we've got our own community. Yeah, we don't need their community for anything.
No,
everything we want we've got. Yeah, that's my vision.
Yeah, and what a great vision it is, and I cannot wait to start building it with you. I really can't. So for me, this clearly isn't about just expansion. It's not. There is a limit. There is a finite limit to the resources available to us in the system that we live in, which means there is a finite number of people that we can set free, but they have to want to have freedom as well. So it's a mindset, it's a frequency. We're looking for people who are on the same frequency as us, who get it, who understand it, and who want to be a part of it. This is about building something fundamentally different and doing it at scale as well. So as always, thank you, Ian, for jumping on with us. And for anybody that's watching this, take some time. Take some time to understand this properly and see where you fit in to what we're going to build. And if you enjoyed our episode today, then I would encourage you to go to our media channel and look at the other episodes that we've done. Share the content on social media so that we can get the word out there. And no doubt, very, very soon, Ian and I will be back with another episode talking about some more freedom-related stuff. So have a great day, and thank you for joining us. Bye for now.
Bye for now.